Well, let's cross live to our political correspondent, Damien Grammaticus. And Damien, how is the special relationship looking today?
Even just saying it, special. We got a special relationship with it. Like, what? Do we sound like grown-ups when we say this? Special relationship is not used in any other context or circumstance, but we're using it between nations because, as I've said before, we share a language.
I'm as real can get. What you see?
Buongiorno, Freaks and Geeks, welcome back to the channel. So it would seem the Israel and American aggression towards Iran has fractured absolutely everything. I mean, Iran's gone completely beast mode, taken out all American war capabilities in neighboring Gulf states. But it hasn't stopped there because it has also fractured the so-called UK-US special relationship. A term I hate with my full chest. A term so stupid that we still use it today when it was coined back in 1946 by that cigar-sucking racist Winston Churchill. A term which was created after the Second World War, but also because I guess the US and UK share a common language, an economic system, and a love of imperialism. I do love the fact that this term was coined after the Second World War, when anyone with a functioning brain could have told you that the only reason the Second World War went the way it did was because of the Soviet Union sacrificing more soldiers than anyone else. But the Soviet Union, for all its faults, was still advocating for communism, and Mr. Winston Churchill couldn't have that, so he decided to team up with the US to take it down once and for all. Not to mention that the UK was absolutely flattened after the Second World War. The bodies used to rebuild the UK may have came from the Caribbean, the continent of Africa, and Southern Asia, but the money came from America. See, America did this very smart thing called the Marshall Plan, where they lent Europe a bunch of money and told them they could only spend it on American companies. And that's where the ocean, metaphorically and literally, between the riches in America and the riches in Europe really showed their difference. And there are some in the UK who still hold on to this special relationship. But I will ask you this: where was this special relationship during the Vietnam War or the Korean War or the Falklands War? I know they kind of rekindled it during the Iraq War from 2003 to 2011, but it was never really there. The US has always seen the UK as subservient, well, at least since 1776, when they decided to depart the colonies for good. Today's special relationship between the US and UK is at best Tony Soprano and Carmela Soprano, and at worst the Joker and Harley Quinn. But you're still going to find some idiots in the British establishment that will hold on to this special relationship like their life depended on it. One such idiot is the producer over at BBC News, because they decided to dedicate a whole segment to it, and that's what we're going to look at today. But before I press play, please don't forget to hit the buttons for like, subscribe, and tell me down below, when was the UK-US special relationship most special?
We begin, though, with the state of the UK-US special relationship, which has taken a turn since the start of this conflict.
This is embarrassing.
In its latest development, Downing Street says Sir Keir Starmer has spoken to President Trump about the situation in Iran. Well, last night, the US president accused the UK of trying to join a war that he said had already been won.
I just love how Britain still gives off this air of, you know, we have to be very polite and stiff upper lip. And Donald Trump, for all of his many faults, just throws all niceties out the window, you know, like an actual normal person, just giving Keir Starmer both barrels and really crystallizing that this relationship has always been take for the US and give for the UK.
In a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump said the United Kingdom, our once great ally, may be the greatest of them all.
No, that definitely goes to Israel, isn't it? Israel is the greatest ally of them all, even while Iran is battering the rest of the Gulf states. America can't help themselves but defend Israel from rockets. It's so funny.
It's finally giving serious thought to sending 2 aircraft carriers to the Middle East. That's okay, Prime Minister Starmer. We don't need them any longer, but we will remember.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
What does that mean? Is that like a threat? Like, you know, in Game of Thrones, the North remembers. Is is Donald Trump planning to like poison everyone in Keir Starmer's family or something and feeding them to him? Like, that's such a weird thing to say, even as psychotic as Donald Trump is.
We don't need people that join wars after we've already won.
Are you sure?
So why did you need them in the first place? Like, I've never understood that. If you're the biggest military power on the planet anyway, why do you need anyone to support you? Obviously you want to spread the cost and spread the body bags, but I've never really, especially if you're taking on a country like Iran, who you've sanctioned almost to death. It's just really odd that you want as many different countries. I guess also it just spreads the targets that Iran has to hit, which we've already seen. But Iran is also showing the world that they've actually got hands. No one thought that they could fight, but boy, you've kind of almost reawoken the Persian Empire at this point.
It came after one of the UK's 2 aircraft carriers was placed on advanced readiness and US bomber jets were seen landing at RAF Fairford. My colleague Nick Johnson is there.
These are B-1 bombers. They're some of the largest, heaviest, fastest bombers in the world. They arrived here yesterday as part of that agreement from the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. He said that US forces can use this base as part of the Iran conflict, but for defensive measures only.
He can't tell them once they've taken off from that takeoff strip that they can only use it for defense. They're going to use it for whatever the hell they want. So I've mentioned this in a previous video. Keir Starmer's stance has pleased nobody. I mean, there are people like myself who say UK shouldn't even be doing this much. They shouldn't be allowing them to refuel or restock or do anything on any of our bases. This has nothing to do with us. And there's people like Kemi Badenoch who say we really want to get out there and start dropping bombs on Iran, as if doing that will signal to America or I don't know, build up some type of goodwill with America going forward. But as I've already explained, America doesn't give a damn about giving us anything. They take. That is absolutely it. So Kemi Badenoch saying that we need to show we are in step with our closest ally. And to be honest, America might be our closest ally, but we are definitely not America's closest ally. But anyway, yeah, she's trying to say we need to be in step with our closest ally just to suck boots, maybe, like just suck like all the way probably to the back of Donald Trump's lovely loafers. That's about it. But all that bootlicking is not going to do you or the UK any good. Donald Trump doesn't care. He just needs people to do his bidding. He won't owe you anything afterwards.
We've seen other aircraft arrive here today as well. US military transport planes. They carry parts and munitions for the bombers. 2 of those planes arrived from an Air Force base in North Dakota, the same Air Force base where large B-52 Stratofortress bombers are based, suggesting that they might arrive at RAF Fairford in the coming days as well. RAF Fairford has a long history of partnership with the US Air Force. It's been used by the United States since the 1950s.
Because we are actually that cucked by America. Special relationship, my back foot. This is probably the most abusive relationship in nation history, I would say. I don't think there's been any other partnership that has been this one-sided ever.
It's also got one of the longest runways in the UK, coming in at just under 2 miles long, and it sits halfway roughly between the eastern seaboard of the US and the Persian Gulf, making it a strategic location for refueling and rearming.
Nick Johnson. Well, let's cross live to our political correspondent, Damien Grammaticus. And Damien, how is the special relationship looking today?
Even just saying it, special. We got a special relationship with it. Like, what? Do we sound like grown-ups when we say this? Special relationship is not used in any other context or circumstance, but we're using it between nations because, as I've said before, we share a language. I mean, they used to be our colony and they kicked us out because they didn't want to pay any more taxes to a king they couldn't elect, which, by the way, is a fantastic idea in my opinion. But we share a language. We share, for the most part, a similar legal system. We share an economic system. The establishment in the US and the establishment in the UK absolutely worship and adore capitalism. And as I said before, they both love imperialism and colonizing and colonialism, all of that exploitation of capitalism abroad. But so what? Like, Australia, we could have a better relationship with. At least Australia still shares the same monarch. Canada, who also shares the same monarch as us, we could have closer relationships with them. Why are we so cut by America? Like, do we just want to go around bragging that, oh, we know the biggest and baddest bully at the moment? Because I'll tell you what, it's looking pretty bad for America if you forecast going forward the next 20 years, especially with the rise of China and BRICS.
Well, Karen, it's a little bit rocky is how things look.
Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
I mean, I think you have to think there are two different levels of this. There is the level of the sort of military cooperation, the intelligence cooperation, the partnerships that operate on a day-to-day level. And the indications all are that those continue. And what you saw at that airbase in Gloucestershire is exactly that. The government's made that point. That's this happening in action.
Yeah, like, I don't think there's ever going to be a time where America can't just barge their way and use any of our military bases. Like, what will the US have to do before we put the kibosh on that? And something I forgot to mention, Americans are allowed to come to Britain, kill teenage boys and just flee. And then we never speak of it again. That's how bad the US treats the UK.
But at the level of leaders, well, then it's not great at the minute, you have to say. Those pretty tetchy, pointed, dismissive remarks from President Trump when the UK is looking at the possibility of sending an aircraft carrier, just, I think, illustrative of that. Now, Keir Starmer has spoken to President Trump today, their first call, interestingly, since the very start of the war, so in a week. And in a very kind of brief, terse statement from Downing Street, they said that the leaders discussed the military cooperation between the countries and the use of RAF bases in support of collective self-defence of countries in the Middle East. That's the key point, collective self-defence. That's what the UK is limiting cooperation to. That's why President Trump has been irritated.
I don't really care what is being said right now. I'm just looking at that video in the background and I hate that video. If you just look at how much of a slithering little worm Keir Starmer is as he hands Donald Trump some stupid letter from the king, and he was expecting, I don't know, Donald Trump to maybe hug him for bringing that letter across the Atlantic, a letter which could have been an email, by the way, and like just his little face like, do you love me now, daddy? Is this good? Is this good? Like, that type of thing is just absolutely awful. Now, going to what the correspondent is saying, Trump is absolutely upset because he basically clicked his fingers. Keir Starmer was saying how high, and the issue that Trump has is he didn't jump high enough, quick enough. Donald Trump saying you should have sent this, or like, when I tell you to do something, you need to do it right now. And obviously we know Donald Trump is a person with a very fragile ego, so seeing someone like Keir Starmer not do what he says straight away, especially when he's seen him on his knees in front of him picking up his papers, he probably couldn't believe it. It was like, is this the same, like, has he been body snatched or something? Is this the same Keir Starmer? I cannot believe it. And I think that is what's angered Donald Trump. I'm sure if other countries like France started to send help right now, I'm sure Donald Trump would actually welcome it, because he didn't send the orders in that way. He specifically told the UK get involved. So yeah.
But what we've heard today from UK ministers, they are determined, they say, to take decisions in the UK national interest, not to outsource foreign policy. And that is, they say, all then the decisions are dependent on, is any action going to be lawful, and is it part of a thought-through plan? And the UK so far has not been convinced of that.
Damien, thank you.
So again, mentioning that Keir Starmer won't get involved because they can't see the roadmap or the plan for what the US and Israel are doing. There was no plan. Like, even I know that, and I'm not inside any government function whatsoever. The plan was kill the supreme leader, create chaos, and in the chaos maybe you can install your own puppet leader. That didn't work because Iran don't play like that. And it's so funny because they ended up just selecting a new supreme leader who was the son of the previous supreme leader, which he murdered. Like, amazing gambit, sirs, in the American and Israeli governments. So what do you think? Tell me down below. I would love to read it. In my opinion, it's not really much of a special relationship if you say to someone, do this, and they say, maybe I don't want to do that, and if I was to do that, can you like show me more of a plan? And you say, okay, special relationship's over, like, we're gonna remember this. Like, was there really a special relationship in the first place? Me thinks not. And at the end of the day, as long as Donald Trump doesn't go for a third term, he'll be out soon. And then the UK is hoping, actually not just the UK, but all world leaders, in my opinion, are hoping that a Democrat will be elected as the next president of the United States, and then you can go back to the facade. You can start putting back on your mask again and try and say, oh yeah, we're diplomatic again. We're going to do diplomacy. We're not going to change governments through bombs. We're going to change governments through maybe tighter sanctions and then negotiations. That is what everyone is waiting for. And in my opinion, I don't want someone that puts back on the mask. I'm glad Donald Trump is showing the world finally what America is and what it has always been and will always be, unless there's a cultural revolution over there. But that's just my 2 penneth. Anyway, special relationship, continuing, ending, I don't really care. It's just really interesting to see the British establishment like getting their panties in a twist. If you've made it to this point, thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. If you want to spot red flags in relationships early and you're into audiobooks, I voiced one, link in the description below. And remember, once we understand politics, we will make better choices. Don't forget to hit the buttons for like, subscribe, and I will see you very, very soon. Ciao.
Oh, well, laughing, I started a joke, which started the whole world. I started to cry, which started the whole world. I finally died, which started the whole world living. Oh, if I'd only seen that the joke was on me.